Lloyd Forger greets Yor Forger with breakfast as she sleepily enters the kitchen. Yor wonders if Anya Forger is still asleep, and Lloyd catches sight of her peering around the corner, wondering if what happened yesterday was still bothering her. Yor insists that it was her own fault. Lloyd asks Anya if she's forgotten anything as she boards the bus, telling her to apologize to Damien Desmond when she gets to school. Anya excitedly asks Becky if Milady lives in a castle, to which the latter replies that she doesn't, of course, going on to say that she'd be willing to come by and pick up Anya in her car as she notices her friend arrive by bus. Anya thinks about her father's words and begins to approach Damien to apologize, but Becky pulls her away despite her protests. Lloyd, who'd followed his daughter in and was watching her actions from the rooftop, curses and thinks to himself that Becky shouldn't interfere. Becky and Anya are sitting totally isolated from everyone else as the rest of the students are scared of Anya after her actions yesterday. They start to gossip about her. Anya falls asleep but awakens when Becky announces that they're going to science class next. Anya protests, saying she has to apologize to Damien first. Lloyd, who has at this point snuck in and disguised himself as a cleaner. In science class, Anya isn't paying attention and catches sight of a lighter patch being reflected in the ground, looking over to find that it spells the phrase, fortune-telling Yoiko, it is good to apologize today. In literature class, Anya's has been altered so that it reads about making up with friends. At lunch break, the omelette she orders has, sorry, written on it. Anya catches sight of Damien and his friends and stands up to go finally apologize, but Becky stops her once again. Lloyd, who has now disguised himself as another member of staff. Anya walks around to where they're sitting and begins to speak, but is quickly cut off by Ewan and Emily. Anya decides to quickly apologize as she's getting chills, hearing the thoughts of Ewan and Emily as they think of potential insults Damien might use to shatter her. This gets to Anya, who then bursts into tears as she says that she's sorry about yesterday and that she wants to be friends. Damien begins to blush furiously as Lloyd looks over, glad that Anya finally managed to do it. Ewan asks Damien why his face is red. He turns away as he decides he'd rather die than accept that he likes a commoner like her, running off. A shocked Lloyd falls to the floor as he realizes that Plan B has been totally ruined. Lloyd is explaining fractions to Anya to help her with her studies. Anya is visibly confused by Lloyd's teaching. Anya read Yor's mind, finds that hers is too empty and that she's as clueless as Anya is, and falls down to the ground in shock. Anya runs away to her room despite Lloyd's protests, screaming that she hates studying. Yor laughs and comments on how Anya's stubbornness is similar to that of her and her younger brother when they were young. Lloyd thinks to himself that she's right, there's no need to rush, as, if all he wanted to do was assassinate Donovan Desmond, he could have done that in many other ways since it won't resolve anything. He reminds himself that as a spy he needs to play the waiting game and earn his target's trust. Lloyd enters to find her fast asleep after studying on her own, mumbling to herself that she'll be number one for her father. Lloyd smiles and
carries Anya to her bed, a little confused as she then mutters in her sleep that her mother shouldn't kill her father. Thanks for watching and subscribe the channel.